Welcome back to Cooking with the Kriks. I'm Serge Krikorian. Hi, welcome back to Cooking with the Kriks. I'm Serge Krikorian. This is my son, Brian Krikorian, with Different Dough Pizza Co. And Brian, you guys have been asking me, hey, we need a good recipe for a pizza crust. And we've been in the pizza business a long time ago. I owned a pizza place 25, 30 years ago. And Brian, he was 4 years old when we put
4 days.
Yes, 4 days old. I'm sorry, 4 days old. 4 days old when he came to the pizza place, and guess what? He was underneath the counter where our customers will come in, play with him, and change his diapers every once in a while. And
they still tell me today, just to be clear.
Yeah, just to be clear. You know, he has a lot of our previous clients that come to him, and they tell him all these great stories, which he loves to hear every single time. So that's why we're telling our audience on YouTube today.
Yes, thank you.
But Brian, tell us how to make a pizza dough that just is going to be a little bit easy. Okay, not going to be a long process like a day process or something like that. Start ahead.
Sure. So first things first. Flour, regular flour you get at the store is perfectly fine for this. What we're using today is King Arthur all-purpose flour. When you go for a shorter proofing time, you want to have a lower protein flour.
Why is that?
It's going to allow the gluten to relax a little bit faster, which makes it a little bit easier for you as the individual to stretch it out, to shape it, to make sure it is what you're looking for. And also with the less protein, it just allows it to age a little bit faster. Okay.
So go ahead and start the process.
So for this first process, this is going to be about 2 dough balls. You can up this and decrease the formula, however. And when we're baking, we always use grams versus ounces. That way we can have proper mixtures a little bit more exact, because in baking it is more of a science than it is just a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
I get that, yeah.
Okay. So first things first, we got our flour. So 500 grams of flour. That we're going to dump into this container very loudly. You're welcome, everyone. Okay. With that, we're going to add sugar.
Okay.
So sugar is one of these agents. It's more adding a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor to the dough to make it more specific. It's not necessary, but it adds a little better element if we're cooking in a home oven specifically.
Gotcha.
From here, we're going to raise this up and just mix it for just a second on a low speed.
And it does not start.
And the mixer doesn't work. So
that's okay. Maybe we need to plug it somewhere where it actually works.
Round two.
Round two. There we go.
There we go. So we want the sugar to just incorporate a little bit before we start adding a little bit of water. Okay. Right now we're on speed 2, just for the record.
And you add this gradually in there?
We're just going to slowly pour it in. It's not necessarily like a little bit here, a little bit there. We're going to slowly pour this in. This is 320 grams of water.
320 grams. And what kind of temperature do you normally have your water at?
So because we're doing this a little bit faster, and we're talking about like having it ready in about 12 hours, we want to use a little bit warmer water. So we're sitting at like about 85 degrees for this water.
85 degrees, okay.
If you're going a longer proofing time, you can start dropping that water down to more of a room temperature level.
Gotcha.
70, 75, whatever it is. The longer you extend it out, the colder water you can use for this. That way the dough maintains the same temperature.
And this dough is particularly like you do it today for tomorrow, or do it today for tonight?
If you want to do it early in the morning and get it ready, then awesome. And you'll be ready that night. Okay?
Gotcha.
Steps change a little bit in that process, but we can teach you both ways to make it where if you're going the next day or having it that night. And as you see, we're starting to get these ingredients to mix in.
If you need a spoon, I don't know if you.
It's starting to incorporate. We're going to kick it up just a little bit.
A little bit. So like a 4.
I think it's on a 3.
Okay.
And all we're looking for right now is just to see these ingredients incorporate together. With flour specifically, and depending on the flour you use, it has a certain amount of water it wants to take in.
I gotcha.
And with the water level we're using today, it exceeds that amount just a little bit. So we're going to let it mix as much as we can get it, and then we're going to just let it sit for a second. That sitting time is, if we look at it, let's stop it for a second. You see how it's all starting to incorporate together? We got a little bit still mixing on the bottom, but that's okay. We're gonna just kick it up for just a little bit more, a couple more seconds, see if we can get a little bit more incorporated.
And when you stop, do you let it do it so that it relaxes a little bit, or?
Yeah, it's relaxing, and now that the water's in the dough, and it's actually a really good point, just about all of it is incorporated in. When the water's starting to be in the dough, right now, we can see my fingers. They're really sticky. And what this does is this 5 minute, 10 minute, 20 minutes, as long as you can give it up to about 30 minutes. You want to just let it sit in this container.
Relax.
It relaxes, it allows that water to be absorbed by the flour.
A little bit more, okay.
That extra time it gives just relaxing in the container with it in there allows that water to bind with the flour molecules, whatever science stuff we get into here. That way it can actually absorb it, and we don't have to deal with a sticky mess here in a little bit.
Gotcha.
Okay, because that's what the hardest thing of doing any of the working is, like, how do I keep it off my hands? And this is going to be one of the ways as we go further on, it stays in the bowl as a ball versus on your hands or on the table, whatever it is.
Generally, I would have half of it on me anyway.
Exactly.
But we don't want to do that
right on
today.
So like I said, we're just going to let this sit for a minute.
When we come back?
When we come back, we will have it for you. Give us a minute.
All right, Brian. Well, it's been resting for about 10 minutes.
Yes, it's been resting for 10 minutes. So now we're going to kick it back on.
All right.
We're going to stay on our lower speeds. So as you can see, if you look at it now, and it's hard to tilt it just a little bit for the camera, you can see it's all really well incorporated now. So now we're good. Now, yeast.
And it's a dry active yeast?
It is an active dry yeast, yes. That is 3 grams. We don't use a lot of yeast because we don't want a yeasty flavor. So we try to add as little as possible, but to make sure we get the flavor we're looking for and the rise we're looking for.
Gotcha.
Right after we add that yeast, we're going to add our salt.
So people keep saying generally you don't add the 2 ingredients together.
You don't. Typically you want that yeast to kind of start to get active a little bit before you start to add the salt. But in my experience through years of making pizza, is like I haven't really noticed the difference.
I get that, because I used to mix it. Again, we're going back 25 years ago. We used to actually have the dough, the yeast, the sugar, and the flour all in one bag, and we put it all together.
Exactly. So it doesn't make a difference, yes, but it's such a minute difference that you're not really going to notice it. Okay. Now, the last thing we add is our oil, and the salt is 10 grams of salt. The oil is 20 grams of oil. You like about 2% salt in your mixture, which is the 10 grams. And that's kind of one of those plays where it's you dependent. That's where you start to get creative. Start at 2%, see if you like it, and then from there, up it a little bit. Subtract it a little bit.
Add a little bit. You
kind of see a range about 1.5% to 3% in the best pizza makers in the world. They're going to be somewhere around there. And you just find your percentage. At the restaurant, we actually use 2.2%.
2.2%.
The sugar, by the way, is 10 grams of sugar. I don't think I ever mentioned that. 10 grams of sugar. Again, one of those optional things. Go ahead.
Your oil. You're using olive oil?
Yes, I use an olive oil. This was a really good company out of Texas. That's Texas Olive Ranch. You want something that's milder in flavor when you're adding your oil. I like a buttery oil when I'm making it versus a spicy oil. And olive oil is just, we're making an Italian dough. We might as well make using an Italian product and a product from Italy. Now, granted, again, I said it's from Texas.
Yes.
So we're going to ignore that. But olive oil itself, Okay. We've now been mixing for an extra 3 minutes, so I'm just going to start kicking this up a little bit. That way we can really start to get the incorporation together.
Okay.
Okay. And when you add the oil, it's going to start spinning in the dough a little bit. If you want to avoid that, start adding it just a little bit slower, a little bit. When you're making a little batch like this, it's going to be okay, especially since we're doing a shorter proofing time, because the temperature of the dough matters a little bit less right now.
And folks, just remember, when you first look at it and it's doing funny things in there, be patient.
Yes.
Yeah, because it'll eventually go ahead and ball up into a perfect ball, and you will see it, but you got to be patient with it.
Yes, 100%. And
see, it's already doing its magic.
It's already starting to come together, and this is a point where in pizza making, you're going to see different camps start to form. You'll have people that will leave it in here for however long is necessary to get it into one uniform ball. You'll have some people that will take it out at this point, okay?
Gotcha.
It really just depends on how much time you have as the individual. Doing this in a shorter fermentation, shorter proofing process is going to be completely fine, because it's going to heat the dough up a little bit more, but the heat is going to do better for the fermentation in the long run.
So how long approximately do you think you keep it? I know we're going with the balling it up, but how long generally does it take?
Typically, this should be from the start of adding yeast to the time I take it out of the mixer is going to be about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
We don't want to do it too long in there, but we want to start seeing that ball really start to form. It can go longer, it can go shorter. You're looking at it to see it, and we'll do a test here shortly to see if we're done. Okay. So we're about at the 4.5 minute mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off. Okay. And we're going to pull a little piece of the dough. Okay, so we see how it's still sticky to my hands, and it literally just broke off.
I got you.
There is no strength in this dough, which means it's not ready.
It's not,
if we were to ball this right now, it's not going. As soon as we start to stretch it again, it's not going anywhere.
It's going to break apart.
Yeah.
I got you.
So we're going to sit here and mix for a little bit longer, and we're going to keep it on that medium-high speed. Maybe turn it up just a little bit extra. Okay.
Well, we'll be back in about what?
Just give it about 2 minutes.
2 minutes
right now. Okay. So I said a couple minutes. It's really been closer to about 5 extra minutes of mixing. We've been mixing for a total of 12 minutes right now. Now. Okay. So as we can see, the ball has really started to come together. Okay. And from here, we're going to turn it off. We're going to drop it down. Get it off the hook. Okay, and the hook just simply disconnects. Maybe. Hold on.
You got it. You got. I knew you had it in you.
Set that upside down, not to get the stickiness on the table. Okay, and we're just gonna plop this down. Okay, now this dough, and the easiest way to test if a dough is ready is what we call a window pane test in the baking industry. So as you can see,
it's stretching really well.
And you don't see a hole form until we get past that window pane. So this is close. This is about 90% of the way.
Gotcha.
Okay. This is about a good stopping point depending on the time you have left in what you're trying to achieve here today. Okay. So if you're gonna sit here and you're gonna want this in 12 hours, I would say just throw it back in this mixer for another 2 minutes, try the test again, and go again. If you have a little bit longer and personal time that you can spend to this, what I would do is I would grab the dough, okay, we're gonna stretch it out and fold it over, okay? Do the same thing on this side, stretch it out, fold it over. Same thing over here, stretch, fold,
stretch and fold.
Okay, and then we're gonna turn it over and start to smooth it out just a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Hey, I didn't teach you that.
You did not teach me that. Okay, from here, okay, again, it's depending on your time. So I would get a container. We can just use one of these for the sake of it. Use the flour one, not to get extra water on it. Flip it over the top, make sure it's big enough to rise a little bit, but we're just gonna cover it.
And leave it out.
Leave it out for 10 minutes, okay? And do that same stretch and fold over again, okay? And right after that second stretch and fold, test it again. You should have a beautiful window pane, and you should be good to go from there. at this point, this is kind of where it really choose your own adventure type situation. I love to have the dough stay in this ball as long as I possibly can, okay?
Okay.
So from here, if I decided it was ready, I would pick up my container with my little bit of extra oil that I have left. We can actually just go ahead and get a little bit more. Like I said, I like a buttery, and this one is buttery. I'm just gonna spread a little bit under the bottom of this pan. Wipe it through. This is just gonna help a little bit with the stickiness as we're doing it in these pans.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That olive oil does smell really good.
It is. Just trying to help. Okay. And we'll pick it up, and we can just set this whole ball on this. Okay. We're gonna leave this out at room temperature for 12 hours, preferably at minimum.
Covered or uncovered?
Covered. We would wrap this with plastic wrap. We're gonna ball some dough to show you how to ball it as well. So we're not covering it yet.
Okay.
But leave this out room temperature for 12 hours at least before you are ready to go. Okay. If you have longer, give it a little bit longer, upwards of 24 hours tops before it needs to get in the refrigerator. Okay?
Gotcha.
From here, we're going to scoot this over just a little bit, trying not to get dough on everything. And we made a dough yesterday. This dough right here has been, I made this at 7 p.m. last night.
Gotcha.
That way we'd have something for today, and you can see the difference in what it looks like.
Oh yeah,
especially if you look at the bottom you can see all the air bubbles that are starting to form within it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about balling. Okay, so flip it out of the container. It should just kind of flop out.
How many grams of, what's the difference in size? Is it the
This
same?
is the same.
Same exact.
This is the same exact
Folks,
thing.
That's what I was trying to go with. Is I know that looks deceiving, but this is exactly the same size as when this started.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you have like a dough scraper or something? I don't want to use your knife. Everything I
Why don't you put that over here and cut it? Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, I did not bring a dough scraper.
Okay. And move the. Move the
There you go. There we go.
Okay. You can measure this out. You can kind of go by feel. We have 500 with 320 grams of water, so we're at 800. So we can literally just
make 2 dough balls.
Cut this in half and turn it into 2 dough balls. Okay. And you see this is very flat right now. So what we're going to do is we have the bottom showing, right? We're going to take one side, fold it over.
Okay.
Take the other side, fold it over. Take one more, just like we did our stretch and folds, right? Okay. We got all that stretched over, and we're just going to flip it upwards for now, okay? And do the same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
And then
flip it over. Okay. Now this is a square basically, so we're going to take 2 corners of the square and fold them in. Take 2 corners of the square and fold them in. Take 2 corners of the square and fold them in. And as we fold it, you can see that this top is getting tighter and smoother. Yes. And we're just going to keep folding it until we feel that tension on top. You can see the bubbles are starting to come through on the top. So we're going to deem that good. From here, just set it on the table. This is the easiest way I do it. Use my pinkies and set them right here on the edge of the table. Attach my ring fingers right beside it, and I'm going to just scrape the bottom of the ball. And it's going to, you see that tension still building.
Gotcha.
Okay. After I get it, my hand basically at the bottom of the ball, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees and go again. Okay. 2, 3, and if there's
put
a towel or something under it, and boom. Okay. Now we look at the bottom. It's almost closed off, so we're just going to do a last little pinch. Just like that, and boom, we have a dough ball.
We're ready to go.
So let's just do this last one. So if we do it real-time speed.
Well, some of us can't get that quick.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I'll get
Lots
there.
of practice. Doing 100 something of these a day, 200 of these some days, you get a little practice. And if you go a little bit faster, you can see it starts to close off a little bit better. Okay, we just set it on here.
And when do you think you can use this now?
These will be ready in about 3 hours.
Okay.
Okay. I like it because when you do it in bulk, it makes sure everything maintains the same temperature a little bit better. When you start to change things around, you can kind of get different temperatures based off where things are sitting. This just allows it to be a little better. It does add a couple hours to this process, but those couple hours tend to aid in a perfect pizza dough. Okay, there we go.
There we go, folks. Well, you got to learn. I even got to learn a little bit more about dough, and I thought I taught you everything, but it looks like
I got a couple things up my sleeve.
Quite a few things up your sleeve. But
awesome.
Folks, thank you very much for watching. And this right here is going to be a really perfect dough in about a couple of hours for a beautiful pizza.
Thank you so much for having me.